Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. I'm joined this week by Paul Croker of 18IT and Asterix. Paul, welcome to the show. And Paul may have left me momentarily.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, for some reason it muted and turned my camera off.
That's okay. So maybe we're talking about such an eventful topic that you literally had to pause everything to focus on what it is we're going to talk about today.
I had to clear my mind for this amazing conversation that we're going to have so I can truly double down and focus in and offer some quality information to the listeners.
So, Paul, I literally said welcome to the show and you muted, so you went completely off. So I'm going to assume you're still happy to be here. We decided that for today's conversation, we're talking about what it's like to approach cybersecurity in different countries. Largely, as we were talking earlier, we have words that we use in the US and in Britain that are very different from each other, right? That mean they can have the same meaning or different meaning. And then, as you were describing, take that and then shift into France or Italy or any of these other countries where English is not the predominant language, or even though it's a different language, they still have words that mean similar things or not, right? And you were sharing with me, what is risky versus what is risque. And of course, we can go down rabbit holes really quickly because we share that word choices, but many others do not. In the cybersecurity space, we all are trying to solve what we've agreed are probably very similar problems, if not the same problems. We're all being attacked largely by the same threat actors, but how we go about addressing them, I think, is very different. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Obviously, you're very involved with GTIA and other organizations there. And I'm just curious, what are you seeing as a, big challenge where you are today? I know your EU neighbors releasing NIS2 has raised some questions and complications around how do I fit in this ecosystem? I now am part of critical infrastructure. Are you seeing a huge shift? And I know that's a lot of questions all at once, but I'm just curious, what does the landscape look like right now for you on your side of the pond?
It's an interesting time, that's for sure. There's lots going on. I still think, Chris, you guys over in the US seem to have a more advanced grasp on the compliance elements and aspects around what's going on, and more businesses outside the IT space, I think, are already operating at a more advanced level. Here in the UK, obviously, we've got Cyber Essentials, we've got NIS2 and DORA going on as well across the EU. I think this year is really going to be where these challenges are going to come up, and we're going to be asked these questions, and we need to know where to go to find the answers. And that's one of the reasons why so many companies that we know are in GTIA, because they want somewhere to go where they can ask those questions and go, hey, I don't understand this. What does it mean? I think I know what it means, but I want to be completely sure. And I'm not just going to take a random punt on Google or check out some Reddit forums. I want to know actual factual information from experts. So I think that's really important as well. It's difficult. We're still trying to, I think, battle with the basics. And I think until we address all those basic points, we know here in the UK, Cyber Essentials is a basic sort of framework. It addresses those 5 basic controls. But already we're getting stats. If you address those 5 basic controls, the local government here in the UK, or national government, sorry, have said you're around 90% less likely for a cyber incident. So if you take those stats to business and say 90% less likely for a cyber incident, that's pretty much a home run in my book anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was recently on a webinar with CIS with Phyllis Lee. She was talking about their model around CIS Top 18, which is becoming a pretty strong, popular framework across across the globe because I think, especially in the IT space, it's one that we tend to gravitate towards because it's very much specific around technical safeguards. And of course, if
Yep.
anybody in the organization has tech chops, then it's like, well, we can do these things because we know how to turn wrenches and screwdrivers. So leave us alone while we go make sure this is locked down and safe. And what was interesting about the model, and they were comparing the CIS Top 18 against the Verizon breach report, which is largely how they came about putting together the CIS safeguards, was, addressing the things or the challenges that you see in the Verizon breach report. And they had it broken down and they showed like IG1, IG2, IG3. And in IG1, and approximating on percentages here, but for the most part, if you were to have implemented the 75 or so IG1 safeguards, it addresses close to 80% or higher the threats that would be, using those, exploiting against where those things solve for. When you go to IG3 or having all 153 of CIS Top 18, you really only moved the needle by around 10%. So now you're in that 90 to, in some cases, maybe 96%. You've moved it 10%. So what was interesting for me, and I think if you look at a lot of the frameworks that are out there, you look at like cyber hygiene models, like SME 1001 is largely a cyber hygiene approach. Even Cyber Essentials, I would say, the way it's structured is giving you a model to work towards a better cyber hygiene within your organization. For some reason, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, we are less concerned about doing the implementation and what it addresses, and more concerned about getting a sticker to say that we did it.
Oh, Chris, you've hit the jackpot there, my friend. Absolutely, 100%. We are still seeing way too many businesses approaching it. And this is not just tech businesses, this is across the board in different sectors. I need to put a tick in this box. When can I get that done by? Can I just do it, get it done?
Yeah.
What's that look like? Without understanding the why. Why is this important? Why is this question being asked? Why have I got all these checks to do? If they look at those frameworks you mentioned there, hundreds of items to go through and address.
Right.
Like, heck, that's loads. It's like, yes, because if you don't address all these things or think about these areas, that's a part of exposure. There's an attack vector there that needs to be addressed or understood. Or, maybe that's not important for you because that's not where you've got more risk in other areas, but you need to know that. You don't know what you don't know. And that's why I think it's important to go through these frameworks and say, hey, these questions are being asked. Okay, complete those questions, complete the questionnaire, whatever it is, and then go, and what's next? How can we do more than just this? Because
it's not a destination.
Yes. Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question, because I think this is, you mentioned this earlier with regards to the US perhaps being ahead because we have so many frameworks, so many regulatory bodies. Ironically, none of them are pointed specifically at the IT services space. But yes, to your point, we are all collectively, knowing somebody that is dealing with compliance against some framework, whether it's FTC safeguards or CMMC or PCI or fill in the blank, right? But I don't know that in the US we still look at those things as a how do I lower my risk as a business, and that's why I'm going to comply with these frameworks if I'm complying at all, or I'm ignoring until bad things happen, and then because of penalties, if I didn't go out of business, I'm now succumbing to the pressure of doing those things so that I can stay in business. So what's that look like in the UK? And I've spent some time in Australia, kind of there, I would argue maybe less concerned about risk even than largely Europe is. And I'd say that broadly, not saying that it's not unique to the UK, but I mean, I think broadly Europe is closer on a broader scale to the US than I think anywhere else in the world, because they've had, NIS has been around for a while, Cyber Essentials and some of the others. GDPR has definitely impacted that. But what you said that you're less prone to carrying on the risk side, and I'm just kind of wanting to go down that path a little bit because I think that's really important.
I think it's people's interpretation of things and appetites. Sometimes people feel, oh, I need to do this because I want that contract. So maybe here in the UK, you might need to demonstrate that you've got Cyber Essentials certification in place for a government contract, or a particular
Okay.
line of work is asking you for that, doing supply chain check or something. So they go, oh, heck, I need this in place because I want to do that work. I need to keep it
Right.
because of that. And they view it as it's almost like a negative point. It's like, I'm spending this money in the certification, but
It's
I'm
like a
really
tax.
reluctant to do so. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I'm reluctant to do it because I don't really see why I need this. I can operate tomorrow and I'm fine, right? Nothing's going to happen. It's that kind of insurance piece around it, that it's making sure that the people that know the stuff know the reasons why you need to do it. But it's always
Right.
difficult to explain to someone who doesn't get it why they need to get it, or why they need to be thinking differently on it.
Like no one wants my data, so why do I care about protecting it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's like you try explaining DMARC and other bits and pieces to people. They're like,
Sure.
I don't understand that. I send an email and it goes. They get it, right? It's like, well, you think they're going to get it. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Who knows? If it's that important, phone up and speak to them to check if they've got your email or
Right.
not.
Well, I think even worse than that is I understand conceptually how email works, right? Like if I send this email and I have the address correct, we
Yep,
all pretty much assume that it will get to who I'm sending it to. And that's probably pretty accurate assumption. The bigger problem is who else sent on my behalf to you that's not me, asking for
exactly.
something that you might expect from me to say. And so
Yep.
you comply with their request only to find out later that it wasn't me.
Yeah, and it's all those things. It's like I say it as a tongue in cheek gesture. It's like I could send it back in the early 2000s. I could send you an email from Bill Gates at Microsoft. I could copy the
Yep.
signature, and it would look exactly the same as an email from Microsoft. And as
I
far
think
as
I
you're
got one from
concerned,
you.
yeah, just the one.
Just the one. Yeah.
And you can make it look that way, and it's no
Right.
different to me impersonating the business down the road, someone else's suppliers. And why are they doing that? Well, they're doing that because they want to they want to jump into a conversation, or see how other people can respond,
Right.
and get access to the next thing. It's a leapfrog kind of thing, a
Right.
stepping stone.
Yeah. Can I move laterally and vertically once I've impersonated in some way, shape, or form through that very simple conduit, right?
Yep.
Uh, so with that, and obviously that's just one example. And I think that one is actually one that I think there is no language barrier or
Yeah.
cultural. It's I think the same. I've had the conversation just recently with an organization here in the States, and they're like, yeah, but like, why is this so? Why do I need MFA turned on my email? I'm like, well, because that creates yet another layer, another gate that someone who has, bad intentions for you that has to go through before they can do anything. And if you want to stay relatively safe, one gate just doesn't cut it anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes two gates doesn't cut it anymore. And so along those lines, what are you seeing? Are you seeing changes around things like MFA and SSO? Because I know here that that's been a challenge with a lot of organizations. They just don't. They either think it's going to still be too complicated to implement, or it's a inconvenience that's not really solving any problems.
Yeah. So again, that's another great question. So I see it as a double-edged sword.
Sure.
Again, if you're in the know, and you need it. And yes, it's not bulletproof. And yes, there are ways that you can still get breached with these things in place, because there's guys and girls out there who've worked out some fancy ways to hijack things around it.
Yeah.
But it's better to have it than not to have it. It's another layer of security. It's like I try to explain things, to say to people, like when you leave your house, you don't just close the door, you lock it. You don't just lock it
Hmm.
once, you've probably got two locks on it. And it's the same sort of principle here. Yes, a password will secure your account, but if somebody knows that password and username, and most accounts these days are your email address. So
Hmm.
we've got that piece of the puzzle already. We only need one more piece, and then we're in, and
Right.
we're off at the races. And I can then have a look to see what information is on this account or this portal. Um,
It. I think we should explore the door lock for a second because I think it's quite interesting. We know the reality is that in most houses or buildings, if someone wants to get in, the door lock is probably not going to prevent them from
Yeah.
actually getting in, right? Similarly, with from a cybersecurity standpoint, no matter how many layers of security I put in, if someone really wants to get in, they probably are going to still get in. But what went through my head is, we lose sleep over things like, did I remember to lock the front door? Did I lock my car? Did I, like those things?
Yeah.
When was the last time you ever were like, man, I wonder if I should change my password on my email account?
Well, exactly. It's not even that. We know, you and I know, there are people out there, and there are probably listeners now who, if they're really honest with themselves, know that they're doing this as well, use the same password more than once.
Yeah.
And that is a ticking time bomb because if you, and again, people don't understand it if they're, especially if they're non-technical. If you get a breach with one account and it's got this one password associated with it, if you use that password in another portal, you need to change that password wherever that password's been used in whichever portal it's been used in, because the threat actors out there have got ways now in which they can spin these account credentials across billions and billions of web portals and accounts and looking for a hit.
Well, I always struggle with that one when it comes to, password, redundant passwords. When you think about things like because of SSO, and I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm not. But like, for example, when you're using SSO to log in to say SharePoint, but
Yeah.
it's the same SSO login for your password manager.
Yeah.
Well, now I have a pretty seamless path for compromise because one is the other.
Yes, absolutely. And it's that round robin. It's like, where's the start and where's the finish?
Right.
It's now seamless. So I think you do need, there's some things where you do need to have an air gap between things. Um, yes, it's good to have less passwords, but I think we're still going to have this sort of thing hanging around our necks called passwords, usernames and passwords, until the developers come out with a different way of going security first. So rather than leaving it to the last minute when they're developing these portals and these accounts, to go, how can I secure this? How can I validate a user logging in? What's that going to look like?
And is that really a problem? I mean, when you think about it, yes, passwords are annoying, but when you layer the complexities of security on top, the MFA or even, SSO options and some of the other things that are out there, you don't really have that being where our problems are, right? It's the absence of doing the things that already exist. Like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, yes, it's flawed. Passwords are flawed because, you have to be able to remember it or write it down. I mean, we joke, but like with work from home, the probability of someone seeing your passwords on a post-it note has gone way down from the days of being in a cubicle and I can just peek over and see the post-it note hanging off your monitor, right? Like
Yep.
you don't have threat actors in foreign lands hacking your computer because the password's on a post-it note stuck to your monitor.
Yep.
But we say that that's probably not best practice.
Yep. Again, we spoke about this before we press go on this recording now, and it's about understanding why things are being done and how things work. We know
Right.
we know we shouldn't speed on the roads, but occasionally we speed on the roads. We know we should have complex passwords and they need to be different, but it's not the case. We seem to think that we're not at risk or any exposure in our home lives, and it's only a work thing. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
not. It knows no boundaries. It cascades countries. It doesn't respect boundaries. It's not as if to just go, hey Chris, you've had a busy week traveling around Europe. We'll leave you in peace. But we'll wait till you're
Right.
back at your desk Monday morning in the US.
Yeah, we're gonna
No.
leave you alone on Saturday because we know Saturday's everybody should take a break, football, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I've been having this conversation quite a bit around governance and leadership and culture. And one of the things that keeps coming up, and I'd love your thoughts on this to see if it's similar where you are, is if we just had a business strategy as an organization that talked through things like roles and responsibilities and the segregation of duties, and everybody understands their roles and responsibilities, and they work together in harmony to bring things to light that are problematic, I would argue that the security side probably doesn't need nearly as the scrutiny that we're talking about today, because all of those other things are in place and you don't have the overlap where accidental things get compromised.
Absolutely. So it goes hand in hand with business maturity, business process, and how we go about doing things ourselves. Because
Sure.
more often than not, there's applied pressure. We need to do something now at the 12th hour. So maybe the process has let us down, or we're behind us, we're behind the curve, and we're rushing to get something done, and we're going to click on something quickly, or we're being applied pressure before we go on holiday, or the weekends here, or whatever it might be. I think there's a huge piece around the culture and the process and how we conduct and do things. If the culture is not right, and people either get hit over the head with a pole or whatever it is, but every time they
Yeah.
do something wrong, then guess what? No one's going to report anything. And that's not to say that everything's okay because no one's reporting anything. It's to
Right.
say everything's now underground, and that's where you don't want it to be.
Well, I remember sitting with a company, they had a third party compliance service where they did their XDR, EDR was all done through a third party, and they helped them with their compliance management. And we had just come into the equation helping them with some of their security implementations across their locations. And the conversation was the meeting for going over the threats, the positives and false positives, et cetera, had been canceled because there were no new threats. And I'm like, we only meet once a month. So to tell me that since the last time this has had a meeting, there's no new threats, like zero new threats. So I said, I would like to have a meeting anyways, and let's just look at the things that you have categorized as false positives. They're like,
Yeah.
okay. So we get on the call and we're going through the false positives. It wasn't a lot, which was actually kind of surprising in and of itself that I think there was maybe 40 or 50 items that had shown up that were say unique from the previous one that hadn't been categorized, but they were false positives. And as we're going through it, I pointed out like three of the false positives were anything but false. And so then that opened up the doors for the conversation around what do they consider to be a false positive, which, I don't know that we have a lot of these conversations, right? This is where we get into that. It could be a, choice of interpretation. But I said, false positive doesn't mean that it's just not applicable to the organization. That does not make it a false positive, right? Like it's
Yeah.
still a positive. It's still a bad thing or potentially a bad thing. And after going through that, two things came out of that call. One, that they really needed to get somebody else to handle their XDR management. But more importantly, and the guy that was with the third party vendor, he said, he goes, no one has ever asked us that question before. How do we define false positives? And he goes, I'm not sure that our team could articulate well false positives in the context of how it potentially impacts positively or negatively the organization.
And that is a great point in itself. Again, you're full of them today, Chris. I'm loving this.
It's my third
There,
one.
it's good. It's good. It's marking your own homework, I think,
Uh,
and you can't have
yeah.
the same team double job doing something which is a conflict of interest. I still struggle a little bit with MSPs kind of also thinking about doing their own compliance pieces themselves in house. It's like, why not partner up with other MSPs and kind of mark each other's homework?
That's a great statement. We have this in the trust mark, right? Where we talk about things like having an independent review. And of
Yep.
course, it comes up like, well, does that mean that when I'm assessed by Verisprite, is that a third party review? And I'm like, yeah. I go, but do you want to wait until you're officially being assessed, or do you want to have somebody check and see if the milk is
A soft
spoiled in
check,
the
right?
fridge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah.
soft check.
Or this is a common one that comes up in policies. I see a lot of participants in the program where the creator of the policy, the approver of the policy, and the updates to the policy are all being handled by the same person. And I've had the discussion, and I've asked why, and they're like, "Well, I'm an MSP of one, or I'm an MSP of three, and the other employees just really wouldn't be able to do that." And I go, why not ask somebody in your peer group? Why not ask
Yep.
me, right? Like,
Yeah.
because the reality is, if you don't get a second set of eyes on it, it's only as good as you think it is. And that may not be good at all.
You don't see your own mistakes.
Not very
So
often, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I always misspell a handful of words the same way. And I get someone else, if it's something important, just to like, can you just eyeball this just to check it's making sense? And they'll pick out a couple of little anomalies and stuff. And it's that mirror to the face just to show
Sure.
you actually, yeah, you are in the right place. Or actually, well, maybe that's not quite right here. But iron sharpens iron, my friend.
Right.
And I'm a big advocate of putting yourself in with good people who are fighting a good fight themselves. And then together we can go further and do more. Why not? Why can't we do that? And it's that same thing about multicultural approach. Yes, you
Right.
might be in a different country to me, but you will have a different view on the world, a different lens to look through than myself or others out there, and that's fine. That's good.
Well, I think that's actually one of the biggest challenges of any framework is it's looking through one specific lens. And so when someone says, well, I need you to be compliant with another framework, they're like, well, I've already done this. It's like, okay, in theory, that may get you two-thirds of the way to where you need to be with whatever it is that you're being asked to do. But I would say more often than not, it makes you look at the safeguards that may even be written almost identical,
Yep.
but through a different lens, through a different angle, coming at it from a different burden of responsibility. The trust mark is all about data being important or not. We're not
Yep.
telling you which data types are important, just that you need to protect those that are important to you, right? Or to your clients. And what's funny about that is they will get wrapped around the axle about trying to say that none of it is worth protecting.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting. I've seen organizations here in the UK, big multinational corporates who have got ISO 27001 and all the big heavy duty certification to go around it all. And they're still asked to have Cyber Essentials certification, which is like much lower down here. And they need the
sure.
badge, and the supply chain want to know that they've gone through that check. Um, you can
It's that
take,
independent review, right? So
yeah,
regardless of how much scrutiny comes from some of those frameworks or some of those compliance options, I would look at that through the lens. If I was going to hire an MSP and you have just told me that you have mapped everything to CIS top 18, wow, great. Who assessed that?
yeah,
But if you tell me that you've been assessed and you have proof, I may not even care about the assessment itself as much as I'm recognizing that you as an organization chose to go to a third party to have somebody else look.
yeah.
And I think that speaks volume.
It's a starting point. You can always do more, right? So there's always
Sure.
something else you can do, but you have to stick a stake in the ground and start somewhere. Step one has to look like something. Do something rather than nothing. Um,
Yeah.
and I think,
Paralysis is the enemy of all of those things.
well, exactly. And if you're sat around there going, "Oh, I'm not quite sure which way to go," you'll stop. You won't do anything at all, and you'll go off in a different direction, or something else will come in and take your time up. And I think
Yeah.
that's the real danger that we're in now with MSPs in the community is that sort of rabbit in the headlights approach. It's like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. It's all this stuff to do, and it's just like, well, you need to start somewhere, otherwise you're just not going to do anything at all.
Right. Well, we are running out of time. We have about a minute left. Paul, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners pertaining to that we both share? We use miles and miles
Yes.
per hour. We're normal.
Yeah, none of this kilometers here. Thank you very much. And try to work out difference in speeds and whatnot. No, we just keep to miles. All good. I just think we're in an exciting time now. Obviously, we know the organisation formerly known as CompTIA for us in the community space now GTIA. We've real got some great stuff which is going to be coming over the hill with inside the community, and I'm really excited to be involved here in the UK and with our friends around the different regions.
Will I see you in March in Chicago?
I'm not able to make March, but I'm hoping to get out to ChinaCon.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm sure I will be over your way then. I think I'll be there for MSP World.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing them, my friend.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for joining me on MSP 1337. Thanks and have a great week. So many extra steps to hit.